afternoon, Bloomers and friends. This is Jack McClellan coming to you again from the Bloom office with your moderator moment. Finally decided to name these little talks with you folks. A couple thoughts this week that have been going through my mind. First, I attended my very first Southern California Nevada conference of the UCC. Say that 3 times real fast. Over in Orange, California. And it was just a couple of reflections on that as they relate to Bloom. First, it was great to be with other leaders of the United Church of Christ here in Southern California and Nevada, meet some of the folks who have similar responsibilities as I have here at Bloom, and other pastors and the leaders of the conference too. As it relates to Bloom, it really put home to me how wonderful we are as a congregation, patting ourselves in the back if you don't mind. A couple of things that jumped out at me. There's something they called open call, where it was before we get going on the afternoon session, where anybody could get up and talk about anything. And one of the people that talked was John DiNapoli, a name we all know, our past moderator. And he gave an overview of what we are doing with buddy bags and loosey bags. Part of the reason we were doing that is we were soliciting support from Felix and other churches here in the conference, as we're going to be applying for a grant from the national office of the United Church of Christ, and they want endorsements from your conference. And the reaction that we got to the ministry when John gave a very brief overview was this chorus of awes from the people in the that were attending the conference. And people were coming up to us and begging us to sign this petition of support. That night at dinner, I literally ran out of petitions, and it became, "Oh, you're the buddy bag and loosey bag people." And I find that interesting as I'm sitting here watching Russ Bertlow, who founded the ministry, doing the filming of this session here. So that was the reaction, and it helped me, that, by the way, because I had copies of the petition, to meet a lot of the folks. I also wore my Bloom T-shirt a couple of times. The other thing that jumped out at me was how, and I don't want to say anything bad about other churches, how fortunate we are to be in a position that we are. With church leader after church leader that I was talking to, we're talking about the struggles they were having, continuing to be able to open their doors, keeping their buildings going, with the small attendance they were having and whatnot. And I look around at Bloom, and we see ourselves as a growing congregation, and we should be very proud of what we provide here in the valley as a way of house of worship for our folks, or for the folks of the valley, and the ministries that attract them. And it is the ministries like the Buddy and Lucy Bags that attract folks to come to Bloom. Also in that 2-day period, I did not count how many times, but I did have a number of times where people would come up, "Oh, you're from Bloom. Would you tell me, please, how do you do it?" So the question would always come back, do what? You seem so active, you seem so busy, you seem so involved. And I said, well, I guess we are. How do we do it? First they asked me, how do I do it? I don't do it. It's how do you do it? And I guess it is the issue of being involved. So enough about the conference, but it really, like I said, put home to me what a unique organization we have here in the way of our church and our community. The second was, we had our monthly Bloom Open Leadership meeting last Wednesday, and I am happy to report that we now have every ministry coordinator position filled. Stephen Hodge has agreed to take on the responsibility of being our facilities ministry coordinator, keeping in touch with the landlord here at the office, the city and the park district for our space at Demuth. And traditionally that position would have been in charge of the permanence committee. They would have been a subset of the facilities ministry. The second thing that I want to just fill everyone in on is, in my personal opinion and the opinion of the Bloom Open Leadership, the permanence committee is an extremely important function going on within Bloom right now. And we felt it needed a greater emphasis than being a subcommittee of one of the ministries. So I have asked Jim Nixon, no surprise here, if he would please head up the permanence committee, and instead of now having the permanence committee report to Stephen as the facilities, is going to report, if you will, directly, and pardon my use of the word report, I'm an old businessman from way back, directly to Bloom Open Leadership, like every other ministry coordinator does. Not consequently, as part of that move, we know Gene Dunham has done a marvelous job over the years as our fund development ministry coordinator. Part of that fund development, of course, is stewardship. Part of it is permanence, raising fund for permanence, our capital campaign, if you will. And part of it is the events that we all enjoy. Bloom, Spring Fling, coming up Hot August Night, and the various social events that are put together to raise money. To put added focus and emphasis on permanence, we're going to be moving the responsibility for permanence fundraising temporarily away from the Revenue Development Ministry Coordinator and placing under Jim Nixon as the Permanence Committee. This is only for the period of time between now and 2022. We are not setting up a new ministry coordinator. That would require a bylaw change. But we're elevating, if you will, the responsibility and therefore the focus of the Permanence Committee to be a very central part of what we're going to be doing for the next year or so within Bloom. So that's just an update of some, I think, important happenings that are going on within Bloom, and maybe some important happenings that are going on that maybe we just don't appreciate all the time, of how unique and fortunate that we really are. So thank you for being who you are. Thank you for all the work and support you give to Bloom in the Desert Ministries. I look forward to talking to you next month. Goodbye for now.